Everybody's attention.
Yes, sir.
Come on up. Come on up. We don't want to yell at you in the back row, right? Feel free to come on forward if you like. If you're more comfortable back there, that's fine.
Sure, my one. Sure, I allow you, buddy. Oh, we good? You bring a straw? Get the same straw?
Perfect. Report? We're good. All right, well, thank you, everybody, for attending today's meeting with the Warren Collier Fire District. We have the entire team, I think, here. The major players, those that can speak to the topics of importance. As you know, Beth, and am I standing in the right place?
Yeah, you are.
Can you see me? I'll stand back here. As you know, Beth Donovan and I attended a fire district meeting in the springtime to learn more about the district, and shame on me for not attending a district meeting prior to that. I've lived in the county for 24 years, right? I've done all these clubhouse projects, club projects, and never, not once attended the district meeting. And let me tell you, we are very, very fortunate to have this group representing our fire district, because we learned, and I don't speak for Beth, but we learned so much about the inner workings of the district and the growth that's coming out east, about the safety planning, just everything that they're doing for our benefit, and extremely humble human beings. They listened. They stayed after the meeting for probably 45 minutes talking to us. And I think, you know, there was only a handful of people in the room, but very gracious with their time. And I'm proud to stand here with this group. I encourage everybody to go and ask your questions and learn. Very informative. But here today, we have Mr. Collier, the Chief Financial Officer for the district, Chief Ricardo to my right. We have Deputy Chiefs. We have two here today, Michael Jimenez and Jorge Aguilera. And we have the Battalion Chief of Life Safety and Fire Prevention, Sean Lintz.
You got it.
Pardon me. And we're going to talk today about a variety of topics, including the harmonization of the millage rate. I know we just had a referendum and a vote in the election last week, and what that means for the district rates. And at this point, I'll turn it over to the district representatives to talk, and we'll spend as much time is we need to present, and then to answer your questions at the end. And I know not everybody, this is a tough time of year, right? August, it's hot. If anybody noticed walking in, high humidity, right? Everybody's up north and enjoying their time, but we are on Zoom, and we have a number, dozens of residents on Zoom, and we'll tape this, so those that were not able to attend today can listen to it, because I know we had a lot of requests to do so. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Chief Ricardo. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, and first of all, this is like welcome back for me, because when I was appointed fire chief, my first meeting with the public was here at Twin Eagles. First of all, I want to tell you all that we appreciate, we're honored to serve you. I've served in the district on the fire service for our residents in Collier County for over 24 years. I grew up in the service here. and I'm always humbled to make sure to understand that I came from the ground up, working in the streets. And public service has always been in my core. That's how we were trained. That's how I was raised in our succession planning through the fire department. And that's the vision that we continue to do here in North Collier. I brought my team, everybody's subject matter expert and specific in their area. And in the fire district, we cross into all of our areas a little bit. We always laugh about that, but we actually, it makes us well-rounded in understanding each other, because there's no red tape. We're right here, we're right next to each other, and it's able to work as a team and actually learn from our community, because the government that's closest to you is the one that affects you the most, and nothing's closer to you than your fire district. You could literally walk in and ask us to look into something, and I could actually touch it and do it. Sometimes you get lost in other worlds, in other forms of government, and you have to go through so many processes. We get straight to the answer, and we try to find solutions as immediately as possible, and it affects you right there in the moment. With that being said, I always also encourage that the growth that I've seen, I'm humbled enough to say it's amazing. What has happened here in the last couple of years, and with the growth expansion, and every time I drive out east and I'm driving out into our district, anybody that's been here has seen it. We live in paradise. I wish the roads would have caught up with us. There's certain times that you're not gonna get on the road, and you'd rather wait till the time passes if you wanna go into town. And then in the morning, in the afternoon, when we're trying to leave from the western part, we miss the window, we'll wait. That's just the way, and I'm talking about administratively and this and that. 911, it affects us the same way when we respond to calls. We just have the lights and sirens, and we could do little things that are different. But at the end, there's a lot more people in our community, and it's because this is paradise. When I go talk and I'm with the sheriff's office and with the sheriff, we live in paradise and we will protect paradise. That is our goal, that's our objective. We will always maintain, because it is beautiful, and we will maintain it that way, and we will parade the safety for all. What has evolved in the last 10 years, really, but in the last couple of years, before the merger, Corkscrew Fire District had minimum staffing of 2 people on a fire truck, and there was 4 people that responded into this area. That's all you had. You may have one day you might have had 3 people, another day, but it was based on a volunteer service type. There was a group of volunteers and those paid firefighters at that time. Upon the merger, our operations, what was the percentage that it has increased?
120.
120, which means that you have 10 people, you have water tenders for brush fires, you have advanced life support, you have a paramedic on every truck, because we also do ALS service. So when you dial 911, you're getting the very best to your door for whatever emergency it is. Our traditional fire service, and comes from up north, the American Fire Service is a traditional service. And the reason I said it, you said it was hot outside, hence, the fire service in Florida, our Class A uniform wasn't built for that. But in all reality, it's the traditional fire service. As we continue to grow, we've expanded in many areas, and the title firefighter, it's really all hazards. We get called for every single emergency. And one guy said one time, if aliens landed in downtown or anywhere, then the first 911 call, the fire truck would have to respond to it, seeing a spaceship and stuff. It's true. Every emergency that you could think of, pipes breaking in your house, water, this, that, any emergency that goes in, we're the ones that come in and try to mitigate your emergency. The title firefighter is because of the tradition. We do have fires, but we run emergency calls. We try to mitigate emergencies, and they are fast. They are different. Even with technology and everything that's happened, we've had electric cars, we've had fires with electric vehicles, we've had
Airplanes on the interstate.
planes crashing on the interstate. Somebody should have told me that. Like I always say, I became the fire chief in 2019, then had to deal with, we were coming off Irma, had to deal with the COVID pandemic, I finally said, somebody must have like tricked me into becoming the fire chief at that time. But, in all seriousness, the growth that's happened and the possibilities of what's happening, and it's controlled growth, because we want to have our piece too. And that's what I always try to tell and express from us with Collier County, to listen to residents, because you can't just say yes to everything without having a plan for infrastructure. And that's some of the things that have happened, is that things that have come in quicker than before the infrastructure has created us problems. And I'm the first one that I will tell you that that's one of the issues that I've seen. We're trying to fix a lot of those things, but we have to be humbled and say the truth, that there's certain things that were approved before infrastructure came in, and it's created some of the bottleneck chaos that you see sometimes, that, hey, I can't move, I'm in this traffic, there's nowhere to go. It's just the planning of how everything came in quicker. But we're here to adjust, and we're here, and it's okay to fix the plans, and that's what we've been doing. We have, Chief Lentz is in charge of our growth management with our fire prevention, which at that time, Corkscrew never had fire prevention. So that's an example. So they had one inspector that was dual duty, and then all of a sudden, when we became North Collier, now we've added that service. So that means in permitting world and everything, we have access to the fire code, and we're the ones that help access the streets, the commercial property, everywhere the public goes, this clubhouse, everywhere we go, that's where he's at. Plus, he's able to help in the future with the growth management, which is one of the topics we talked about, cellular service, towers that may be coming in. Try to emphasize that we need this because the people are using cell phones, and we need towers. So we've gone as far as, even in our properties that we own a property real close by on Craig, which is less than a mile. And now that I saw it when we've already even approved, hey, if we could help out the residents and put a cell tower in that area, we're all for it. The biggest fight that we always have, and I don't understand, I was commenting that, and somebody may have the answer to that, but the biggest fight that happens is between those providers. It's the Verizon, AT&T, it's the T-Mobile, they try to monopolize the site, and then they create problems when they're fighting with each other, when in some places they're just sharing the same tower and they're fighting for customers, which that's how it should be. Like, hey, get on the tower and then try to get your customers, but it shouldn't be trying to block some other, monopolize it and try not to block. So that creates problems. So for us to change that conversation, we say, well, we won't let you put a tower unless you let everybody be. You see, that's how we try to get them all on board. And we've been moving in that right direction. Again, there's a lot of things coming that are in the future, and they're moving, that will be allowing service. But we got to deal with some of the stuff that's happening today, which is, since you brought it up to the meeting, what meeting have we now talked about? Every meeting we've had in the county, we talk about communications, cell service out here, because it affects us too. It affects us responding. All our stuff is based on technology. Our response comes from the dispatch, comes through technology. Everything is exactly how you have it on your phone. We have it in the truck the same way. Being dependent of that, understand that we're dependent the same way that everybody's dependent now, that Wi-Fi, if you lose your Wi-Fi, you're mad, you're upset right now. Well, that's a weakness. That is a weakness, because we lose Wi-Fi, everything shuts down. Now we have redundancies. We have portable Wi-Fi. We have multiple ways of getting internet. Starlink, we're able to bring in mobile, and for emergencies, we're mobile internet. We could do a lot of things. And so that's one of the things that we're saying. If we have a troubled area, why can't we plug that in and leave it up until the tower gets up? So that's one of the options that we're saying. Hey, it doesn't cost us anything to come in and leave that in there, put it up. And that's how Chief Aguilera brought that up on the day before yesterday. And it's like, yeah, if we find a site that we can just put it up, you'll have some service, and at least it'll cover the 911 calls and cover things. It's not gonna run all your cell phone service, but it's there in case you need it for emergencies. and you won't even know the difference. This is all technology behind the phone, if it's pinging off towers. So that's some of the stuff that the growth does impact when you don't have proper infrastructure and technology keeps on changing. And everybody wants the quick technology, but then they forget that they gotta build the infrastructure. So that's one of the things that we're helping guide the way. We're gonna leave time for questions. I love this because I take feedback. Feel free to ask us any questions, because if we don't have the answer, we'll get it back to you. And I know that and I like the owl. It looks like an owl. But if we're able to, I already made the offer. Anytime, if you need us to come back, if you need us to do it, my team is your team. We are your fire department. And so at no time do I want to think that, oh, we're gonna do a speech here, come out of here, and you're not gonna hear from us again. I'm telling you, as long as I'm fire chief, my policymakers, my commission has always told us that that the service comes first. We will be here at any time that you need us. And if I don't have the answer, I'll go get the answer. And something about me is that means that sometimes I may I may be a little bit too more impulsive to other forms of government when I have to go get an answer, but I'm trying to get an answer for you. I work for you. And so does my team. So, thank you again for having us here. And, I'm gonna pass it on to our CFO, which is the real boss, Ben Van Cleargren.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, thanks for the opportunity and the time, and this PowerPoint slide and presentation. It's kind of scratching high-level service of general information about property taxes, about the term that was used, harmonization, millage. So I won't presume that that's a common phrase for everyone. So we'll kind of describe a few things, and if you know it, great, check it off the mark. And I won't delve into a lot of this because I don't know how many of you love millage and math and taxes. So I also will gauge your facial expressions if we have to go a little faster, but we do want to make some time. So we just want to give some general information for you. And again, if you have particular questions, just hold off. I may answer it throughout, or at the end, we can definitely provide any answers or clarification we can. So.
Can you all see the slides? Or
Can you see yourself?
Was working about 14 minutes ago. All right. Well, we'll do this. We'll use the screen.
Technology.
Okay. We'll do it this way. So just a little bit about the fire district. As you can see, it says independent special district. What that is, without a lot of details, is we are our own form of government. We are not part of Collier County. We're not part of the city of Naples. That's probably the biggest level of confusion when you talk to just John Q. Public. When I say who I work for, the North Collier Fire District, they say, oh, so you work for the county. No, we're an independent taxing authority. We have our own 5-person board, and we provide service to 264 square miles of unincorporated Collier County. And our taxes and our funding comes from the taxpayers, which we'll go over just a little bit. We were created, as was said, in 2015, a few years ago. We had 2 fire departments that merged together, and I can presume probably most of you were around for that, maybe not, but 2015 was our benchmark. Before that, our fire district of North Naples actually dates back to 1960s, I think, right, Chief?
61.
So it's a very established fire department in Southwest Florida, and we merged together in 2015. North Naples Fire, Big Corkscrew Fire, again, 264 square miles. We have 10 stations, and as of right now, we have 284 employees. So as far as employers, we're one of the larger employers of Collier County in general, and some may know that or not. So things about our finances, we have 3 funds we have to budget for. General fund is what our meat and potato is what we talk about, but we do also have an impact fee fund that we have to budget for that's also paid for by growth, new buildings, new construction, and it's intended and earmarked for new infrastructure projects, a new fire station in a new area that never existed. is for that. We can't pay for operational things with impact fee money. And the inspection plan review fee fund is a service-based fund. When we charge for plan review services and new inspection services that the commercial resident or commercial side pays for, and the personnel associated with that is its own budget. So again, it doesn't touch the general fund budget, but that's just part of the pot, so to speak. So this is the breakdown of what our budget is. And again, in most governments, your main part is your personnel costs. So 73% operating, 18%, 1% debt service or payment of debt, and then 8% this year capital costs. All right, so how the district is funded, we say property taxes, and that's residential and commercial, and it's paid by a millage rate, which is that taxable value of your home or your business times the multiplier. That's the millage rate's the multiplier. And for the fire district, we operate under 2 millages. I think, Chief, we're the only one in the state that has 2 different general funds and 2 millages of the special district, I
Yes.
believe. So we're talking about harmonization because that's really the way it should have been done. But with having 2 different millage rates, that is 2 different budgets, 2 different budgeting processes, 2 different everythings. So North Naples service area, which is the other service area closer to the water, there's a cap of millage of 1.0 and for this service area, Big Corkscrew, the statutory cap of 3.75. So for the state of Florida, if there's no additional caps, the statutory cap is 3.75 for the whole state. So North Naples, from years and years and years and years ago, it was established legislatively for that area at 1.0. That's important as far as harmonization. So taxable value, that's the baseline. So 3.9 billion sounds and is a huge number. And in the grand scheme of things for the fire district, that is and represents 7% of the value of the North Collier Fire Patrol Rescue District. So it's big numbers, but also the North Naples service delivery area is 52.3 billion as far as taxable assessed value for the district. So what that means, now we're doing the math, get your calculators. So utilizing the cap millage in both areas, that comes out to 14 million in revenue in the Big Corkscrew and 49.7 million from the North Naples. Combine that together, that is our general fund revenue source coming into the district for the next tax year to operate our budget. And that's assuming, or if we establish, and if the board, when I say we, I'm saying the board who has that authority to establish what the millage rate is for the year. If it's established at the cap, which the current year we're in, we're utilizing the 1 and the 3.75. And these numbers are based off this year coming right up. And the year coming up starts October 1st. That's the clock for tax purposes and running of the district. Now, revenue at the proposed millage rate, so there was a slight proposal change, which has not been formalized yet. We'll talk about that in a second. But of 1 mil at the North Naples and then 3.587 mils in this Big Corkscrew service delivery area. That was discussed at our budget workshop. And what that number is, that 3.587, it's called a rollback rate. So for a gold star, has anyone ever heard of the term rollback rate before? Just raise your hand if you had heard that term before. You don't have to say what it is, but that's not a normal term. And what that is, it says the tax rate that an authority would choose to generate the same amount of revenue as the previous year. So when property values increase, the rollback rate is less. So if you establish that, you would in theory have the same revenue coming in as last year. So kind of follow that a little bit. So our board discussed at the workshop of utilizing the rollback rate for this coming year for the Big Corkscrew service area. And going back one slide, what that means in big numbers is that the budgeted revenue we were anticipating, the decrease to the district is 607,000 aggregate. So and what that means for the district, for the management, is now planning budgetarily how we adjust our budget and operations to having $600,000 less coming into revenue. That's what that means, and that's our responsibility to now make that work if the board chooses to go that direction. So harmonized millage rate, that would be the presumption or the goal of having one uniform rate for the entire district. And what that would be, because we have one group that's at 3.75, one group that's at 1, the magic number is 1.18 for this next year. So that means that 1.18 for every resident or every taxpayer and assessed value would elicit the same value as 3.75 here and 1 here. So that's just the magic number of what would it be if we were to have one tax rate for the entire North Collier service area. That's the magic number. So what that means is in North Naples, that would be an 18% increase for them. And then for the Big Corkscrew, a 67% decrease, which I don't think anyone would disagree with the harmonized millage rate for taxable value to go down by 2/3. So that's awesome and 100% approval rating for everyone here in this room. But what that means and the how, that's something that Bob had approached us and said, you know, obviously that's something of note in the how. So our board, because the statutory rate of 3.75 in this service area, they can establish the taxable rate, anything up to that 3.75. And then for this North Naples, we can establish anything up to the 1. We cannot go to the 1.18 across the board without increasing legislatively this side of the house. So that's the part where I said legislative and state and local, and I don't know if the chief or anybody wants to jump in as far as the hows, but
So the goal and the objective is to look at it from the state side, from the legislative process of adjusting some of the things that have changed in the laws in the last 10, 15 years that the 1 mil, when it was established, wasn't considered. Like Save Our Homes, all this was created because that 1 mil we carried since 1961. That cap, the reason that 1 mil exists is because it came all the way with us, even in the merger. Looking back, what we should have done is we should have been able to update that. So it's a legislative process that we should update that if we want to go to the supermajority, like the board is allowed to go to rates by supermajority. We can't even go. We get the little from the tax collector for North Naples service delivery. It says, hey, you with supermajority vote, you could vote and get this much, and it's anything above 1 mil, it doesn't mean nothing to us. So we can't even adhere to the state law that's actually there to help you recover from growth and stuff. We can't do it. So we're gonna try to use that statement to see if we could adjust the state law in the legislative process to help us do that. And the other side is the more direct one is to go to the local service delivery area in North Naples. And I'm sure you guys all have friends in that area. And we just go for a referendum vote for them to raise the cap to unify the harmonized rate. And then that would be up to the voters in North Naples service delivery to vote for that. And then after that happens, saves us a lot. So we don't have to do 2 books and you know what I mean? But we would be I know our board has been for what, 3 budget years, we've been putting aside money to be able to find the right avenue of doing this and finding the right people to help us, to guide us in that world. Now, we had Hurricane Ian, we had Irma. I mean, we had a couple of things that have happened along the way, but we have been paying attention to first of all, paying attention to the property value. And we always get scared about the property value, because not as much as in Twin Eagles, but as much as the other area. So the outside Corkscrew area is enjoying now these property rates, property hike, but if it ever went down, it could cause a problem. I think it's not. I think it's gonna it'll probably level off, but it won't. You know, there's certain things that have changed in our area that pushed the line. Another thing is that we saw, and I think I told you guys when I first talked, because I was here when the merger, would have been a lot simpler that right off the beginning from the merger, because you were on the boundary of our line, we should have just moved the line, North Naval Service Delivery, and just moved the line and just dropped it right on the outside of Twin Eagles, and then, because it was like for like, it would have fit, Twin Eagles actually fit more into the property values of North Naval Service Delivery. But again, we were the first, with all the talk of ever fire districts merging in the entire state, and anybody that's been here a long time in Collier County, reading newspapers about this and that, there was no law for fire districts to be able to merge. It didn't exist. That was just, hey, why don't you just one? Well, there was no law. The law had to be passed, which we were the ones that sponsored it. We created it. We created the process for it. And that's what we used after it passed in the state legislation, is what we used to be able to merge. Now you're able to merge fire districts by going through this process by the state statute. That law did not exist until we were the first ones to go through it. I know there was a mention about, there was a vote on the last, that's Greater Naples. Greater Naples, it's outside, it was the old East Naples and Golden Gate Fire Department. They have merged and they created Greater Naples Fire. They just passed the millage rate for capital expenses to increase their millage rate to 2 mils and that sunsets 0.5 for 8 years. 8 years to help them with infrastructure and things that are costing more money and stuff that they were paying, and the voters in that area voted for it. So they're at 2 mils. Now, I always, when you see the 1.18, my personal opinion, that's just fair. And that's just what it should be. Like, we should be harmonized, 1.18. I believe that the elected officials are the ones that, hey, should be balancing when times are good, maybe come back down, but 1.18, what are we really talking about? But the commercial so then demographics of your district. Commercial property is different, and there's a lot, and your demographics in the service deliveries are different. So as commercial, like the Ritz-Carlton is paying 1 mil and maybe paying 200,000 to the fire district. When you tell them that you're gonna raise it at 1.18, that becomes a different conversation. Now, I look at it that it's not gonna be $6.99 or $8.99 a night. Now it's gonna be, that's different. Commercial will probably put it into the system and gain their money back. Residential is different, but we even have like residential communities that, because of the county's different ways of MSTUs and stuff like that, like in doing this homework, we found out in our area, we have a whole place, so they pay us $1 mil, and that community pays $500,000 to take care of a sidewalk. So all I want is the 0.18. Like, listen, I even told these guys, they were laughing when I said, I wish they would give me the $500,000 and I'll take care of their sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like, but that's how in your taxes, just because their rate is the same here for the general fund, then everybody has different other taxes the county grabs by MSTUs and all that. So every area is different. So it's kind of that the rate's not the same. Yeah, the rate may be the same, but the areas are the ones that are taxed differently. Some communities have own roads, and they have this tax that they take care of their own road. So there's a couple of things that are different. But our goal, because our goal has always been from our policymakers, from our commissioners to us, is to find a way to harmonize ours and to get it closer, at least moving in the right direction. And we've known that imagine when you guys showed up and you were talking this and that, we already knew that subject because it's fresh in our minds, because we see the property values going in. Now, the number one phone call I get is property insurance. The number one call that I get about what's going on is property insurance. Like, how can I help them with property insurance? And believe me, we're the fire department, and all our 10 properties and all our vehicles and everything, we pay property insurance the same way. So guess when they raise our property by 100 and something percent
in 1 year,
we start asking questions. And it didn't help that it was after we won a lawsuit against them too, which is the same amount of money that we won on the lawsuit is exactly what they raised our premiums on. They didn't even wait for the 1 year. They didn't even wait to do it.
There was no correlation
But there was, yeah, that's what they said, no
No
correlation. I go, wait a minute, you guys, you could have probably got us in increments, but 1 year to another, so we've written letter, we've talked to the state about it, we talk about, and it's the same thing you see in the news, property insurance is a problem. And it's gonna continue until somebody controls, and all they do is they threaten you and say, at least we didn't leave. I don't know what that means either, at least we didn't leave. And a lot of people are not insuring their homes, they're self-insuring their home, or they're joining with co-ops to insure, they're doing it on their own. So there's a lot of things that affect a couple of things. So we never want to be the burden on the tax side because you're a public safety. In all honesty, I don't ever want you to use us. If you think about it, we're the service that we don't want you to ever have to use us. We show up on people's worst days. If I'm not going to a school event, public event, or something like that, the next time you're seeing firefighters, it's gonna be either accidents, medical calls, I don't want that for anybody. But it's a needed thing in our community, in our society, that when you dial 911, you get help. And that's what we're here for. So our goal is to find that answer for you. Our goal is to work and continuously, we may have to partner up with you. You may have to help us in spreading that information through. Because I think like what Ben said, I don't think this area is gonna vote against that ever. But what I need is them to help me support it, to get it on the North Naval Service Delivery, your friends and everything. Tell them, hey, it's only fair. These guys are having to run 2 books. It's public safety, that's the conversation. And hopefully we could get that passed and then it's over. As time grows, as your demographics change, as you have more commercial, it starts looking the same. Nobody even looks at that. The fire department is not what they're asking about. There's other issues in tax and how they do taxes that people question all the time, and because we question it. And so you got the examples of that?
Yeah. And aside from that, our biggest, like the chief mentioned, as we budget for our operation, our capital, things like that, we don't get discounts because we're the fire department. As we said, property insurance jumped up 112% in 1 year, property insurance for us. And our capital things, a ladder truck, which 10, 15 years ago would have been $300,000-$400,000 is 1.2 million now, or more.
Right.
So the cost for capital infrastructure, buildings, apparatus didn't just incrementally start doing this. It's very steep and
then, and just to piggyback on that, even when we find solutions, there was, supply issues, there's things that everybody had to deal with. So we find out, hey, let's refurbish our truck. Because we read it, you can refurbish a truck all the way down to just the bottom. It's a brand new truck when we get it. It would have been 600, 400, 500, between 500 and $600,000. So we figure that out. And what does the company do? We don't do any more refurb. They don't do refurbs anymore.
supply and demand. We focus on the new.
Refurb.
build, not
Now,
refurb.
now we only do, because now they figured out that we cracked the code. And we were able to refurbish how many trucks? 2 trucks. 2 trucks. The same truck that we bought, one ladder truck that we bought, that we saved money. If we would have bought it the following year, how much did it go up? $400,000. And we're like, okay, that's a problem. Then they tell you, will put you on the waiting list. Because now it's not even, they can guarantee it that it'll be done within the time. So there's how many 4-year waiting list, 3-year waiting list, and that has a price tag to it. Then I go, well, listen, if I pay for a price tag, that means it's guaranteed. I'm gonna get it. Oh, no, chief, we can't guarantee. I go, so why are we talking? So that becomes another issue that we have to deal with and we have to navigate. And we're navigating it, and we don't have an issue. We have a schedule with our trucks. We have a schedule with the way we respond, but that changed a lot of the economy of scale and stuff. If I had to buy a ladder, just a regular ladder, and I go buy it, like my private car, go to Home Depot, get a sale on it, no problem. If I go in a uniform and they want to slap the word fire on it, I have some vendor that wants to sell me the same ladder twice as much. That happens all the time. So we got to be careful even with vendors And if we can find outside the box thinking or cooperative things, we do it because we save money doing it this way instead of doing it that way. And that's really what we're learning, how to navigate through those different challenges. And again, what he's telling you is that fuel goes up, we gotta pay fuel. We don't get a discount. People assume that we get it for free, but we gotta pay, we're in a contract. We may not pay the tax. We not pay the tax, because we're tax exempt, but whatever the rate is, that's what we pay. The electricity is the other one. They just tell you that they're raising electricity. Hey, here's the notice, we're raising electricity. But we run the stations 365 days, 7 days a week, we're never shut down. There's not a day that the fire department doors are closed. There's always, it's an ongoing, and it's like, when that truck leaves, it has to turn on. It has to keep an operation running that has to work. There's money and there's a background that people are working to maintain it, from fleet mechanics all the way. We can't have a truck that may turn on or that may not turn on, or, you know what I mean? That doesn't work.
So the last piece I'll fly through, this is just how your taxes work from what you get. This is just to meet the rubber road. So Twin Eagle statistics for you guys, for the residents, 717 lots, 591 single family homes. And of those, how many are homesteaded? There's about 60% of the homes here are your permanent residents that are claiming homestead exemption. The average market value of 1.2 and the taxable value of 920,000. That makes a big difference because now I pulled this off the property appraiser website. I picked in one service area in Twin Eagles, a random property and a random property in Palm River near the district, two different areas, just to see kind of the different breakdown. You may not be able to see the nuances in there, but everyone should have gotten this in your house. They were all mailed out by Collier County August 19th. So everyone should have gotten this. And what it is column 1 represents the taxes you paid to the local governments this year that we talked about last year. And column 3 is what those governments are planning to set and establish the tax rates for this next year.
So,
Which will be effective
so
October
like,
1.
for example, here Collier County is telling you general fund is 3.45. So you're gonna probably get everything in the world that says Collier County general fund. Nobody's lying. That's what the general fund millage rate is. But then you have 0.72 here that's titled something else. The true county tax that's going to count 3.45 plus 0.72. It's these two things. In some columns, in some different areas, there's another line there that might be another MSTU that the county is charging. In different areas, it's different rates. Here, there's only two, 3.45 and 0.72.
Right. So just to highlight that we are the bottom line. When you see BCF, North Collier on that, that's us. And this 3.587 is the rate that was discussed by the board. That hasn't been established, but what they're intending to set as the millage rate and the taxable for us. So for this property, the taxes were at 1,700 in the district for the year, and it's going to be 1,865. Now, I said that rollback rate means no tax increases, but keep in mind that's an aggregate value of 3.9 billion. So if certain houses went up more value or less value, that one rate is what's used for everybody. So just kind of.
So this one went up to 519. And last year was at 477. Property value, taxable value went up on that property.
Right.
So on the next one, which this is the.
So in Palm River, so this is North Naples service area. You'll see on the bottom the 1 mil and then the proposed mill, $488, $504. But the taxable side, because this is a homesteaded property, you'll see last year was 488,000, this year's 504,000. But if you look at the top left corner, that's the market value, which plus or minus, it's not Zillow, this is from the property appraiser, $1.7 million. So that's a home that's been around the block for a while, it's been homesteaded for a while. So the value of, in theory, 1.7, but because they've been here for a long time, they established the homestead and have been homesteaded for a while. So they're paying the fire department.
So to add, same thing I said about the, so this is what goes to the Collier County. So here is 3.45. They also have the 0.72. Then they have 0.5, half for Palm River,
Sidewalk.
sidewalk. And then they have 0.10 here for Collier County light, which might be some light that they have. So this is the tax that they pay for the county. And then Save Our Homes is portable. If anybody knows how Save Our Homes, if you're portable, if you move from anywhere in the Florida, you have Save Our Homes, then there's a formula, your taxes can only go up a certain, and that was years ago. And again, that's what the statement I'm saying, that our millage cap has never been readdressed with the new rules that came in place. So what happens here is that 1.175 it's a benefit, and then, so literally, they're only using 500,000 for the taxable value. So when you come here for the 1 mil, they pay the fire district $504. Still can't believe that the sidewalk is $500,000, but that's their choice.
They pay us $500, they pay for $250 for sidewalks.
So again, then you multiply that by all the properties and then the commercial and all that, and that's what happens. That's why our goal, we know that the 1.18 millage is what needs to be done. It's the right thing to do. You're never gonna hear anybody in our staff ever argue about that because it's a lot easier to run. We run our service North Collier wide. You get every truck, if there's a need out here, you're gonna get every truck that we have in our system. So the reason that's why it's easier for us to explain that, hey, equalizing the millage rate, we don't look at people differently. We respond to calls without that boundary. That's an administrative thing that how we're funding it. But when in the true emergency, when you dial 911, you're gonna get every resource we have. Doesn't matter where it's coming from. So again, that's why I keep saying that's probably the easiest answer, is that our goal is to try to get them to harmonize it. And our goal is to keep working with people, communities out here that are gonna help us, to help us spread, and that's the correct way of doing it. It's a political natured discussion that needs to pass to allow us to function better, and it's the right thing for you in this community.
In the last, this date and time, that's September 12th at 5:05. And all the other governments, it says when their tentative budget hearings are. So this is the last slide. This just breaks down the cycle that we have to abide by, all governments in Florida. So July 1st, we receive from the property appraiser the estimated values of the constituents in our taxable area for the next year. That's to help us to base on creating our budget. Then we have workshops between July and August. We had our one workshop in July, back on the 25th. And between the 3rd and 18th, the governments have to establish a tentative hearing, which is an FYI of what the government's intending to do. And then between that and the final budget hearing, there'll be an advertisement that'll be in the newspaper, Naples Daily News, that says this is the budget they're planning. And then for us, it'll be on September 26th will be the final budget hearing where the board will adopt the resolutions to establish the budget for October 1st. So, and all these meetings are public, they're on our website, but on the tax flyer, it says, date and time. Again, you would love to hear the board talk about budget numbers, and no one's falling asleep that I can see, so that's a good thing. But for any interest or anything, everyone's always encouraged to come to the meetings, listen to things, and there are opportunities for asking questions, get clarification, or have your voice heard to the commissioners, because we run the department, the chief runs it operationally. They set the policy and they approve the budget, the elected official. So that's the bread and butter of communal discussion or questions or anything else. Or it will always be there right today or in the future to answer your questions or provide any guidance, but they're the ones that set the policy and approve the budget, whatever we present to them and whatever guidance they give. So that was it on as far as financial things. It was longer than you were hoping. I apologize for that. But, Bob has the copy of these slides too, so I'm sure if there's any things you want to see more, it's not going to disappear. And like the chief said, we're happy to answer questions or whatever else. So yes.
If you live out here, obviously, we're interested in 1.18 village rate change, obviously. But realistically, what's gotta happen? I mean, people that are getting the 1%, a significant number, a significant property value. You know, if you got $1 million home, what are you gonna pay? 1,500 or 2,000 more a year? Something like that? I don't know how you're gonna get that. I mean, if it's gonna be, if it's gonna go to a vote of the homeowners, we wouldn't have a chance. I mean, there'd be no chance.
So,
Am I missing something?
no, you're not missing something. That's exactly our dilemma. Our my opinion, our team's opinion, of everything we researched, our best bet is to go legislatively to the state and be able to change the ability of the powers of the commission to be able to uphold to the tax law. Because if they could do that, then the
Mhm.
cap of a mill would blend away, and then we could actually go and make a uniform 1.18 because it's inside the barrier, the rates of the thing. Now, will I still have people mad at me on that side? Absolutely. But we're run by legislative state. Now, the commission has to give me the okay to go that route, and they have never unanimously, all 5 of them have backed to try to find a way to uniform. So if I gotta tell you that there's commissioners that will go on a limb and they don't care if anybody gets mad in North about it, they just think it's right that we uniform the rate. So I can tell you that. At least I haven't had one person in the 5 board to tell me, oh, now we have talked about, hey, we gotta find a way, how are we gonna convince, maybe with town hall meetings, maybe this, you know, maybe it'll surprise you. Maybe somebody will say, hey, that's fine, that's what it should have been. That's why I said the commercial is the one that will trigger. You may get more support in the residential side, but like you said, it's about value. The commercial, they become lobbyists. Like the commercial will tell me, oh, chief, I don't know. And then all of a sudden I have these groups working against me somehow. And, oh, it wasn't me, but they paid somebody to come shut it down. That's what happens. Remember, I told you, I'm pretty blunt. I tell you how that works, right? The commercial is the one that you have to educate first, tell them how it's done, tell them what we do. We have friends that we do have people that support the fire service that would always, that if we do right explaining, I think we could convince them. But at the end, they don't vote. Commercial don't vote. They're gonna do the same thing I'm doing. They're gonna do, if I'm trying to educate the public, because I can't pick a side, I just could use education. The state of Florida doesn't allow me to tell them, vote yes. I could just educate. They'll do the same thing, but they'll try to do it on the campaign side of saying no to it. And then you just play your odds at the election. And then if we win, we win. That's about it, right?
The vote, is it put on the election, there's a,
They put it either on well, from the supervisor elections policies, they would put that on a primary election.
the question, right?
Yeah.
Are there any elected officials that we could support that are supporting you?
The 5 commissioners that are in the current board right now are the ones that are supporting to do a uniform. There's no, and by the way, we just won three candidates just won for the next 4 years. So you have the majority of the board right now that's supporting finding a way to do a uniform millage rate. So yeah, you don't have, will it create somebody to run against them if it passes? Probably. You know what I mean? But I don't see, again, today I'm a little, well, since yesterday, I'm a little, that sidewalk is driving me crazy. So like my mind has been going crazy about, hey, trying to convince that person that would say that. I go, wait a minute. So for us, you won't give us the 0.18, but you're paying for the sidewalk that you don't even know when last time they, right? Like, so maybe I guilt some people into saying, hey, you know, I don't know. It just blew my mind that I saw that. This first time I hadn't even seen that.
The one thing that we do know, have multiple discussions, and there was, campaign Greater Naples that fresh off the press. A fire district years ago changed a methodology from ad valorem to non-ad valorem assessment. And the success stories were based off a tremendous amount of education and whether it's door to door, but getting the word out. What we do fully know is try and do something quick in the shadows and all of a sudden it's on a ballot and no one knows anything about it. It just looks funky, it looks shady, it looks like a money grab from the fire department. All those things are known entities versus you have a campaign that's discussed a long time. You have elevator speeches that everyone is saying the same thing, answering the same questions, having the same information, and the ballot, no one is surprised by what's there because they've heard it for a year and a half. So there are things that, we're discussing and learning that just would help the constituents be more at ease of at least understanding whether they agree and want to pay more, but so much of it is about education and context. Us saying why. It's not so firefighters can have raises. We
Right.
talked about the capital needs. We talked about the growth. We talked about the type of training we need for hazardous, all the special teams that we provide services. There's so many things that we do. And if the citizens see that we can do it and do it well, how we did the COVID pandemic, how we assisted the state with doing this and the feds with doing this, it all has part of a picture of being able to do this as we're growing, as people are moving, as the population increases. So it's a big thing, but that's why we're not jumping to do the quickest thing because that's almost guaranteed to not go anywhere.
So we learned from the we already had one attempt that we tried to do a ad valorem assessment right after our merger. And we knew that we were gonna lose. We felt that we were gonna lose in North, no matter what. We were doing the same thing, but we knew we were gonna lose in North. But we thought for sure it was gonna help us win the equalizing of the ad valorem, of the millage rate, because we thought for sure it was gonna pass in big corkscrew because it was cutting the taxes at that time. Well, that lost, and they lost because it was not understood. That's what we realized. It wasn't on the voter, it was on us for not being able to, we didn't do it right. And listen, I told you, I'm humbled to take the shot ourselves. That we tried, they just did it, and we should have held back. We learned from that experience that we need to educate the public first, because if that would have happened, if we would have had that, this conversation probably wouldn't be had today. Because you would be paying this flat rate based on your property. It would equalize, then it would be easier for us to equalize the millage rate in increments. We probably could have, I still have to go to the state to change that 1 mil. At the end, the 1 mil is not gonna survive. Regardless of how we wanna see it, that 1 mil won't survive because it's not, the cap shouldn't be 1 mil because 1 mil is based on the old laws of the taxes that whatever the market, whatever your value was, we were getting 1 mil on. Then you would never have to raise the 1 mil in North Naples because value will always grow. But when they capped the value and they did the Save Our Homes and they did all these other things to the tax, that means that 1 mil should have adjusted, which it does allow. There's a formula that we get that says that we could get 1.05, 1.1. Every year we get what we could get for growth. We can't get it because the cap says 1 mil. So I'm still trying to write it. So if everybody finds out, you guys told somebody, but that whole 1 mil to the state is to tell them that I can't even adhere to your laws. My elected officials can't do that for the citizens because we're capped at that 1 mil. That's our goal, that we're trying that route.
When was the merger between North Naples and Corkscrew?
It started in, the whole process started in 2014 and it was official in January 1st, 2015.
2015.
Yes,
So this has been going on for 9 years.
right.
That Big Corkscrew has paid 3.75.
Well, no, you started at 3.5.
The cap's been 3.75 that whole
Forever.
time and one,
The amount went up. each
but
year, But it did
the-
not, under the statutory amount of 1 mil for the rest.
No, it's never been equalized.
And it never went up. What I'm saying.
Oh,
is
yeah,
that
no.
It went
Correct.
up in Big Corkscrew each year incrementally or however to get to 3.75, which is where the cap is right now.
Right after the millage rate when the ad valorem failed, the board at that time went to 3.75. To capture, yes, that's when the millage rate went up.
Right, so the cap's been 3.75 and 1, and the board has established the rate for taxation up and down over the last 9 years.
Right.
It's been 3.75 the last couple of years. It was 3.5 a few years before that. It
Right.
was 3.7, and then it was, so it's fluctuated since 2015.
Right.
And then even North Naples, it was 1.11. They dropped it down to 0.995
Right.
for 1 year or something. But it just can't go above the cap. But the board is the one who sets what it will be for the next year, up to the 3.75.
Who would decide on redistricting again, to make it a little more equal in the locations of Big Corkscrew and North Naples?
That would be legislatively.
That would be legislative as well, and that would be the 5
That's going,
political,
no, that's going to the legislation and changing your boundary lines.
To a state
when was
legislation,
that-
the
was
state.
that the last time the boundary line was changed? In
2015. It wasn't changed, it was, well, yes, changed because it became North Collier, yes. So, yeah, so for us to change that enabling act, that would be another option that we have legislatively to incorporate certain areas in. You know what I mean?
And that would generate
In
from
your
the residents.
experience, in this area, I come from a different state, so things were totally
Right.
different in the way things got done. Not the way things, the process, but the time frame. What would you think the time frame would be in trying to make it a legislative?
And legislative, I tell everybody that when you run a bill in legislation, because that's a lot of my background, you would have to at least 2 cycles to get it done, because the first cycle, you'll find all your opposition. And then on the second cycle, you would have all your support or any tweaks to your bill to get it passed.
So 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
As far as are there any exemptions in commercial, such as schools and affordable housing and other things like that? Is there any exemption?
Schools, yes, government doesn't pay taxes because that's your money. So schools don't pay us taxes. Commercial, there's no exemptions. Commercial they have different rules on how much taxes could go up on them, but they all pay taxes.
And one of the subcontexts of it too, everything we showed you on that chart was the ad valorem assessment based off of the multiplier. What's not on there and will be on your tax bill is a non-ad valorem tax assessment. It's $250 here, $250 there. It's for solid waste removal.
Right.
And that applies to everyone in the area, including fire departments. So
We pay that.
so non-ad valorem assessments are paid by churches and everybody. So the ad valorem is the part that really is
And by the way, just for clarification, we don't charge that. That's,
correct.
yeah, that's the counter.
I'm looking at trying to put together some in my mind.
Right.
With the size of Big Corkscrew and North Naples and having them merged and the number of firehouses, whatever you would call it in that, and I don't have the geographics down. But the response in the locations of where the firehouses are seems to me to justify a redistricting.
I think it's still, I see what you're saying.
No,
No, because how we operate,
thank you.
operationally, we run everything as one. So when you say that, when I redistrict, I only solve that problem for the people that I put in the 1 mil. Everybody else outside is still gonna be saying the same question that we have here. So the solution is to change the uniform millage. The solution is to get them to go up to 1.18.
Well, I guess I was looking at, if you really came down to brass tacks, looking at the statistics.
Right,
And all of that, you know, response time, there's more calls, less calls, types of calls, that type of thing, all put out in black and white, and being able to justify either a redistricting or a legislative mandate or something, but all those minutia of statistics.
Right.
seems to me that it would justify.
Yeah. Yeah, and how we would, and exactly what you're saying is why it should be, because we respond to you with every resource we have. And we respond to North with every resource we have. So then that means that it should be equalized. Like for example, impact fees and fire inspection fees are universally the same throughout the entire district. So that means that in Corkscrew, when a commercial builder is building, they're paying the same like if they were building in North. There's no change, the rate's the same. So the reason we were able to do that in impact fees and keep everything the same, because the rate was already established, it was always the same before. When we merged, the rates were always the same. The only thing that wasn't the same was the millage rate, and the millage rate was done, they did that on purpose, saying, not wanting to tag that North was paying for the growth out in, which, that doesn't make any sense to me. Because you just saw the rate of the county. If you want to use that, then the county is charging in North 3.45. Everybody's paying that rate. It's a lot more money they're paying out there in general fund for the county than they're paying here. You're still using the same road, driving from there all the way into the east, west, doesn't matter. Taxes are based on property value. So at the end, it's only fair that the rate should be the same. And that's how I convinced the North residents, saying you're already paying on the general fund the same rate. It should be the same. Why are you treating it as an MSTU for no reason? We're public safety. So that's the reason I can say that, is because that is the truth. That's just the way it is. But I understand. What I never want to get caught is that anybody here not think that we're
Service.
yeah, like the service shouldn't be rated. I shouldn't be just responding to you, oh, you want to pay 1 mil and it's only bringing this much, now you want to get one truck with 3 people. That's not gonna happen.
Right. So I know we said 3 to 4, but
I got a question.
yes,
So we use the fire district for crowd control training, CPR, AED training. Are we missing anything as a club or as a community on services the district provides that we could be helping prepare for emergency situations or help our residents?
So mitigation, for which you guys have a great maintenance program here for years. It has to be worked with the district before. You know, brush fires, urban interface has always been the biggest problem out here. You guys have seen when we have brush fires out in the estates, you know, there's a lot of clear path and everything cleared. Your maintenance people have always been great out here, and they have everything cleaned up. And there's a reason for that, because when things go airborne on us, when the wind kicks in and stuff, if you don't have a maintained property and you invite those embers on your side, guess what happens on your side? You have clear barriers and things. So brush fire, when it's the brush fire season, just reminding people, we help you with flyers and everything that we have to do. But CPR, we provide the training. You just got to contact us. We'll come in the clubhouse and do it. Crowd manager, Chief Lentz and his team, they have a way, and even if you need anything, how to prepare for storms, how to, stop the bleed, medical. The CERT program, which the CERT program is activating volunteers. They learn certain things to a certain level. You could have your own Twin Eagles group that during emergencies, who's here. Then we know that we have a point of contact in here for anything. It could be after the incident. It could be to secure. We'll help you with your emergency planning too. We'll sit down with you and tell you, hey, this is what we do during this. A storm, this is what we would do. And this is what we do. Hey, you should have your point of contacts, emergency papers in this way. We'll help you with all that. Without getting into your personal, we just globally tell you that what we've learned in the past, the biggest thing that happens, example, we already talked about it. Cellular service was, for whatever reason, for a couple of years now, any emergency, as soon as the storm's over, what we have is people rushing into the streets. It's not for water or for fuel, it's for getting into an area with cell phone service to be able to contact somebody to tell them that they're okay. So what we do is we help you set up, who you need to contact, and we'll hit them through social media, we'll blast out this, Twin Eagles safe, or, things like that, we continue, because internet and everything, the first people that get back up is us, because we're running 911 calls. So then we can spread out the information to a contact, and if we need cellular out here, we'll put that, what's that called? It's not a cow. It's funny because when I heard it in the radio one time, I go, what? Cows got loose? And it wasn't a cow. It's the acronym to the mobile internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then one time I heard, oh, there's a rhino, and I thought it was in a brush fire, and I actually went and said, why are you laughing? So the rhino, and I'm going, what? And I'm thinking it's a person on a rhino, like a four-wheeler. And I don't know if you all know that out here in the States, there's it's a white, right? What's the reserve? It's called Nagala.
Nagala.
Yeah, and they have giraffes, and they have, it was a rhino. It was actually a real rhino that they were trying to get out of the brush fire. And we saved him, we were able to save him. And it was kind of scary because his owner had the elephant gun and everything, and he was ready to put him down. He didn't want him to, because it was the fire was around them, and the helicopter came and hit it, which they miss always on the first time. It's gotta be true. It's hard to hit that, but they hit it, and he hit it on the first time. Was God watching, and blacked out the fire, and Wally, right? Wally the rhino was saved because of Wally the rhino.
We have a friend in Wally.
Yeah, so we took pictures with Wally the rhino. So, but, anything that we could do for you guys, we'll help you, this area. I used to get the smoke detector question here a lot. And, about the smoke detector, it's a service that, we'll bring in that ladder, which we call the Twin Eagles ladder for a long time, yes, there you go, 60-foot ceiling, and the guys they don't get it to there. They'll say, hey, we'll come back and we'll send some other truck, but somebody will come from our district and help you out with that. They tell you, hey, we don't want to damage anything. And they'll also tell you if we can't get to it, but usually the one that they always get to is the one that, I don't know the design of the house, how that one got in the right?
Yeah.
So the A-frame ladder is the Twin Eagles ladder, so the guys love it.
I have a question. Fires, floods, hurricanes. We have one primary entrance and exit in this place. We have a secondary one. Most people don't know about it. And how operational is it?
You can get out and you can get in. And we actually, Chief Ricardo and I just talked about it before the week started to make that better.
It has to be. Yeah. You're sitting ducks here between the fires and the floods and the.
I think my first week I told Beth, we gotta fix that. Yeah, so it's been on my radar since the first week.
Absolutely.
You can only get out and get in if the people that are at the front gates are available to open.
Right. First week, we noticed. And the discussion point is recent as last week when Beth and I and Karen and Phil from the HOA met. And we're working on improving. Right, for the club and for the residents and for the team. So how quickly we can do that? Don't know, but it's on our radar and we're having discussions about. What's the next best way to get a 911 call out? If I'm on property, don't have a signal. How effective is text 911? Or is there a better way other than that?
No, those are your two.
Yes. So we know from a cell tower perspective that Heritage Bay, I believe, has now approved the tower there. We're about 2 miles or 1.8 miles out of the crow flies.
Right.
So it's coming,
Mhm.
right? And we know from our meeting in, what was it, March? Beth was the star. She was on the news that night. But we asked a lot of questions. We talked to the providers. We talked to the county.
Right.
To put pressure on. And clearly, this is the private sector that really needs to move this along. Although county sites like Bear Creek Elementary School might be a perfect site, right? There's firehouses being built or being planned
Right.
as we go east now.
Mhm.
And I know that you advocate for those towers to go up on those
Yes.
sites. Is there anything we can do to help?
When, if ever a community comes against it, I will call you. You know, if a community, I could see, you know, the same way that you want it, then some people will say, I don't want to look at it and whatever, if that ever happens. But that has not been the case because everybody's in the same boat of what they're saying. You're not alone in what you're saying, because cell phone service drops back here, which is, sometimes it's great. Like you wouldn't even think that you have a cell phone problem. That's the weirdest thing that I've ever known, you know, and then all of a sudden there's a blocks of time or there's a, or there's a period that you can't even get a call out and you get the no service sitting on the outside. The reason we know is because it happens to the guys on the trucks when they're on calls, their phone from the department phone inside the truck will lose service. And then they're listening to old school radio instead of having their information coming in through the data terminal. Again, that's a redundancy that we have, that we go through radio. But so getting from the 911 call from you to there needs to be two ways. It needs to be about a cell phone that pings in the cell or getting to a landline, an old landline, if anybody, you know.
And remembers that?
If anybody has an old landline or there's a, you know, we used to tell people, as long as you have a phone a jack in your house, you should have a corded phone in emergencies because that system. But I tell you that today, just to have it as a backup, but a lot of those lines also have gone wireless on the outside and their infrastructure. So you don't have wireless, you don't have line. You know what I mean? That's another thing that's happened. Just like your fire alarm system. Fire alarm system has backups. You probably, the one phone line that will always exist is that, but you could back it up with 2 wireless carriers too.
Wireless carriers,
So
satellite
So
transmission now.
if you lose that, you may lose that for a minute. But your 911 call is we get that a lot where there's a lot of things that could happen. There's people that have called for a vehicle accident and it's pinging each other. And then finally, we just get a location in the area. For your residential, the one that's automatic is the minute that you get up, you have a landline and you're able to call from your house, we get all your information goes dumped into the system. So we may lose you, but we know where the phone call came from. So by the way, it's the same, which is not like, this is not the norm in every area for you to understand. In the state of Florida, not everybody has a system that we have, that sheriff office and us are all connected. Some municipalities have their own dispatch in different areas, then they have to cross-reference and talk to each other. Here in Collier, the call comes in, SO, fire, everybody's on the same page, which is huge. And so we all listen to the same, they have their channels, obviously, the fire department is not listening to the channels of, hey, I'm gonna check this house for burglary or all that. We're not checking that, but we could if we wanted to. You know what I mean? We're on the same network.
Could I just piggyback
Yeah.
on that real quick, Chief? Again, Chief was talking about these towers that, some are coming, there's talks, conversations, and I sit on a lot of these conversations in these pre-planning for these towers. So I guess the question I have for you, the residents, is it certain carriers that you seem to have better service with a certain carrier than not, or it's just in general, I guess, you just don't have that service?
It's all.
It's all of them.
I mean, I do know that there are a couple, I just sat on a couple planning meetings. I don't think it's really going to help over in this area as we were talking prior to the meeting. But I know there's another one going in at Oil Well and Immokalee Road they're talking about a site over there. And then, of course, there's one a little further out to capture the villages out off Oil Well and towards Ave Maria de Soto. But yeah, it kind of helps me for talking points to kind of advocate for you that when we're in these meetings that, we can push to these carriers and say, hey, we've got an opportunity to service, the citizens of our district, plus for them to put up a carrier site to pick
Yeah,
you up.
I don't know how AT&T doesn't come in here or wherever the company comes in here and says, hey, I'll guarantee you cell
Right.
service, this and that. I'll even give you a rate for everybody that lives in Twin Eagles. Let me put this here, let me measure your strength. They should be catering to get customers. Like, I don't know why they get into these fights with each other when they have to put the tower up. And again, I asked that question and everybody backed off of it. I said, no, chief, public safety is first, this and that. I go, but it seems like you worry about where I'm putting mine and this, if we're putting the tower, we want all the providers. I don't know what provider the residents have. I want everybody to be able to hit 911. That's the only reason that you're coming to me. Like, why would you come to me if that's not the case? Like, you're only looking for opinion and you want my support to say that the fire department supported you, then I need you to put all those carriers that are able on that.
Right. And I
For
know
sure.
the Heritage Bay Tower is,
Verizon
AT&T, Verizon and T-Mobile.
and T-Mobile.
Yeah, I think, why can't we get that? Yeah, why can't we get the same thing here? Like, if we started to get it, why can't we get it?
We need approval from the residents
Okay.
to put the tower up. And where do you put the tower up? There was a tower,
Yeah, exactly. Look at my.
there was a tower site plan for the maintenance area. And the homeowners there had a question, should we be doing that? And so we've had that discussion. And we're also looking at other areas where we might be able to put one up. And I've had discussion for the last 2 months with the company I've done this with, at a previous community. So, we're working on a lot of different angles in my spare time.
And just to add to what's changed, when we talk about towers, I don't want you all, I know you all, or maybe you picture it, you just picture that tower. Technology has changed, it's changed. Like there's one that they wanted to do for us and they gave us a whole scope. It was beautiful. It's like a pole, it's an American, it's for a flag and everything. You can't even tell it's a cell tower.
Yeah.
So things have changed.
And the height requirements have come down too. They
Right.
used to be these 300 foot.
Right.
Now they're 150 feet and you can have a Brazilian pine. Pick your tree.
Right,
Yeah.
We could find.
Yes, sir.
Carrier out there.
Does the 911 system, accept, VoIP calls?
yes.
Okay, so even if we're outside and we don't have cell service, if we're on our Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Take a call, then it's.
Yep.
It's
100%.
You have all the information.
Yep.
And if you're close by the clubhouse, the elevator has an analog line. Just an FYI. So you can go grab that phone in the elevator and push the button, and that'll get you in 911. I'm not sure if it goes to a monitoring service and then the 911.
And then they'll dispatch 911. They could do it from there.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the elevator phone. That's,
Yes.
that'll work.
That's a great-
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Response time. Where, if you had to call 911, first of all, what station would the,
Station 10,
here's that?
right across the street. Immokalee.
Randall and Immokalee?
Oh, down by Randall.
Yeah.
Yes, right there on
They
Immokalee.
do the back gate, for one, because that would be closer. Do they have access to the back gate?
Yes, they have
Yes.
access.
Easy access, do they have to call the front?
No, we
gate to
have-
see
Their
somebody
vehicles
there?
have
So Carter County ordinance, any gate that's ever been put it, well,
Okay.
Yes, yes.
And then,
every gate that's been maintained and every gate that's been put in correctly has a transmitter on it that is only for sheriff and police. It's our signal.
and what would the response time be to get to the Eagles once you receive the call? Do you have
Our-
some target that you
our-
kind of?
Well, our target is based on standards, NFPA standards, and for medical calls and for a response and our response times into Twin Eagles, depending on where you're at. Because so
Right.
gated communities, which is a lot in our area, is depending on your wine and your traffic control or your humps.
Yep.
That changes our thing, but you have a good response time here in Twin Eagles because 10 has
Less than 5 minutes.
so yeah,
Sure.
you have two trucks, you have an attack truck and the engine. And then as soon as one is, let's say they're on another call, you already have trucks that come into the area to respond for you. And the reality is that you don't have the concurrency problem unless there's peak hours and then we have 42 and everybody else on the accidents that are coming in. You have a good response. Now, I will tell you, I always tell everybody this about response time. When you dial 911, and it's happened to me, and I've been in the service all the time, and I've been on the other side calling 911, it feels like an eternity. It feels like on your side, dealing with an emergency, it's human nature that it's gonna feel long for you. So, and there's a lot of emotion going on and it feels long for you. When you look at the paper and you say it took less than 30 seconds to transmit, then it comes back as it was 5 or 6 minutes to get to you, that is quick because that's from the point that it went through the system, got called, got dispatched, routed into there, they jumped on a truck and got here. That's when you get there, yeah, it's fast.
And if it were a medical call, do they send an ambulance initially or no?
No, so medical calls go, engine, so Collier EMS runs a truck with 2 people, an EMT and a paramedic. The fire truck, which is right across the way, has a paramedic in there, and so first response is closest unit response. So it doesn't matter, you might need an ambulance, it's getting dispatched to you, but you don't know where the ambulance is coming from. But you need medical care, so that's why we have medical gear, that's why we have LS gear. So when you see an engine show up by itself, transport unit's coming, but they may be coming from somewhere else. That's one of the big things that's changing here in the next few months for all of us is that we're North Collier is a transport agency. We're applying for it with a laws changed the car ordinance, so we're gonna have 3 people on a rescue unit, and we'll be able to send our ambulance with 3 people, which is an EMT, a paramedic, and 2 paramedics, and attendant. The reason you need 3 people, and the reason that everybody's always said, oh, why does the engine follow, or the other way around, is because when you're in cardiac arrest, like you want all hands on deck. So the paramedic from the fire truck or the EMT, it might be 2 people jump off, but usually a paramedic will get off the fire truck and jump in the back with the other paramedic and then run your IVs, run the monitor, run this, run that. And sometimes we even have 4 people in there because you have somebody recording everything that you're doing. And you need the best level of service at that time. We are going to the 3-man concept on a rescue because we leave the engine back for the concurrent call. And we know that with 3 people, you have an attendant and a paramedic already. So if some other call dropped, then I could send the engine to be, which that's what engines are. Engines and fire apparatus should have been always to cover the ambulance as they're switching in and out. Because what you really need is transport. We're buying you time. We're fighting against time. We try to get you to the hospital. Another thing that's huge for us, and he just told me, yesterday? That hospital that they built that was great when the grand opening and everybody, hey, what a great way, hospital out in the east and all that. Well, I wish, and I don't want to talk bad about NCH, again, I'm too blunt sometimes, but we got a lot of things happening that hospital wasn't taking patients. We would have to bypass the hospital and go all the way to North Collier. Every time that an ambulance has to leave this area and go into town, you're losing a unit and they have to drop a patient and you get caught in the vortex because I told you it's closest unit. So when they clear that call from North Collier and they get back on the Immokalee Road, if it's a certain peak time, if there's a call that drops, that ambulance goes there again. Now, it takes forever to get back into the zone. So what happens is the hospital takes patients, then then it works because you have a medical call here, they take you to the nearest hospital, take you to NCH right there down the street. Then they go back and they're still in this area. Makes total sense. But if the hospital tells us that they don't have staffing and they're not open, then we gotta bypass it. So one of the things we're trying to help is, hey, but they did better now, and now they have a full complement. And a lot has to do with, I tell everybody, we can't forget whichever position you are, believing whatever happened, we did have a pandemic. We did have, and that affected certain things. It affected things like people left healthcare. There's people that were in healthcare that just left healthcare whatsoever. In our world, EMTs and paramedics, we had people retired, done. Because they were either close to retirement and they said, it's not worth it. Or I'm not gonna deal with it anymore. Somebody said, hey, I'm done. Then remote work picked up, and then, hey, you could work from wherever and pick up other jobs. So we have people that left the fire service or EMS because they could do remote work and they had a degree in something else, and they could pick up and they could live here and work, get hired somewhere else. So that picked up. Now, I always tell everybody, everything's a fad in the beginning. Remote work has backpedaled back, and there's a lot, and a lot of people are like saying, hey, yeah, we could do remote work for certain things, but we need you to come to work, right? So that's changed a little bit, but that is the dynamics that have changed a couple things. Recruiting and retention for us is one of the main topics in the fire service in the state right now, because we're trying to make sure, so we're trying to get them back from programs from high school and this, and police are having the same struggles and you see all these incentives, changing hours and work weeks and trying to make things happen. But at the end, Philadelphia was reporting that they're losing firefighters because they rather work at Lyft driver because they get paid weekly. So there's even a cultural thing about, I don't understand that, because I was taught to save my money. You know what I mean? Like my mom said, hey, you got to pay your bills, save your money, make your plans. But some people want things so quick now, and it's changed the way that things are happening. But again, we're trying to catch them early now to give them public service careers. So.
Last question.
My question is, as a former healthcare professional, and we talked about all that response time and all that. So as the population explodes here, and it's going to, and it's in the near future, it's not out there, it's going to. How are you going to be able to explode your personnel to cover all these things that we're gonna need you to do? I mean, is that all legislative too? Can you require for X number of population, we need, in the square foot area of the area, we need so many personnel? How are you ever gonna get enough people to give us the adequate coverage that we're going to need as a population? How will that happen?
So, and it's a great question. And one of the things that I tell that we've done in North Collier is that when I became the fire chief, one thing I told the fire commission that hey, the greatest asset you have is your people, and you need to invest in them. Like if you were financing yourself for a 25-year career, those people are developed. Like I could hire firefighters today. I need firefighters. I put it out. I could hire firefighters that fills a certain seat on my truck or on the ambulance. But what I can't do, what I have to grow inside, is the officer in charge that's sitting on the right-hand side, that's the officer, and the one that's driving the apparatus. I have to train them. It has to come from within my system. So sometimes what we've been doing is that we know, we project and we hire early, and we project the amount of people that we need to provide the service that we're providing. It's still a loaded question what you're telling me, because you know what happens? I may hire 10, and the people that make it out of probation might be 8, might be 7, and I'm still fighting the back. The guy still got to keep a professional. You deserve the best. I'm never going to put something on the street that's not the best. That's North Collier model. I am not. So you have to go and you have to hire the people and train them. And I'm not talking about, hey, training issues. I'm talking about there's an expectation in our profession. You trust us, and we need to be professional. I cannot have anybody that's not professional. So what happens is that sometimes they don't make it, and we gotta let them go, and we let them go earlier too, because we don't want to spend too much money on something we can't fix. But at the end of the day, moving forward, promoting people to get into our world, expanding the way we do service. The fire service is just not us responding on trucks. It's my civilian employees providing support. It's Ben, his finance department. It's growth management. It's my mechanics. There's a lot of field. I just need good people and I'm be able to bring them in to provide that service. So the healthcare is having the same problem, the same struggle, nursing, what was it, the one that radiology, ultrasound, it's like every time we go to a meeting that has to do with a workforce or essential, and they call it essential, but it's services. They're contracting with everybody. And we have a lot of people coming outside, but one of the biggest problems here is our housing. They don't, their contract of where to put them, an apartment, like the person in Founder Square, next to Founder Square, those apartments, they were saying it was affordable housing. And they were, that's what, I didn't know how much it was. Then they said, how much, what, $4,000? I go,
Studio was 31.
$4,000, that's affordable? And you're gonna have two families in there and maybe they could swing at, or four firefighters living together. And some of that is what's happening. Or the schedule allows us that we have people that live at, Babcock Ranch. And since we work 24/48, they'll come to work and then they leave, you know what I mean? But then what you miss on that is I was raised here, I worked here, I coached youth football, I was part of my community, I went to church, I met everybody. That's what you miss. You miss that firefighter in the community because they're gone. They can't afford to be in the community. And that's the person that you need, either law enforcement or a nurse or anything involved in the community, because that's the people that sometimes become the mentor to somebody that joins and you refresh and you add people to your profession. So when people don't live here and all they do is work here, they have no connection to the community and that becomes a problem. And again, I'm not expecting anybody to be living, like I told them, expecting to live in, Pelican Bay or even in Twin Eagles, everybody, because, you work hard for your stuff. It takes time. Maybe when you retire, maybe you could do it. You know what I mean? If you work hard. But what I'm saying is there's nowhere to go, because what used to be our neighborhoods that we used to rent for annual rentals like Naples Park or out here in different places has become either Airbnb, and you can make more money renting it out on vacation rental, or it's out in the stratosphere because the market is demanding it. And the market is gonna demand it. So when you hear affordable housing, you gotta ask them, what are they trying to do for affordable housing? What's the rate? What is it that you're doing for an apartment building? Like, they throw us around a lot of time, us police, firemen, teachers and all that. That price point is not there. Like, there's some guys that they can't do that. They can't go in there and they rather, and a lot of people are staying home longer if they have their parents around. It's not anymore 18. I went to the military or I went in college and came back. No, there's a lot of our firefighters are still living at home, saving some money and then trying to get out into the world, into the market. So into their 30s.
And one other thought just on that, how we address the crazy population growth. When there's crazy population growth, when it's residents or businesses that come in, that leads to more taxes for us.
Right.
So that helps offset some of the cost of the hiring permanent position.
Right.
The impact fees that we have help subsidize a new area for a new station out there. Now, we have to monitor, does the growth and what they pay in taxes keep pace with the need? That's a fine balance that we have to always assess. But the other thing that's in our control, aside from millage caps, is the ability to change the millage rates depending on the cap. The other part that we do all the time, and we would lean on it more depending on resources, is government interlocal agreements.
Right.
Because we all work together with Greater Naples, with Immokalee, with City of Fort Myers, or City of Naples and City of Marco. So, we'll pool our resources as needed for care, continuous care, for inspections, for medical calls. So that's always what happens. And if things become more dire, then, you do more of that and you communicate more and you work. So there's multiple levels to that question, but in general, if the growth happens, there's a time lag, but that does help us in the overall budget growth to help hire more people and have the stations.
Yeah, like we have a countywide automatic aid agreement with all the with all our providers, so the resident never has to, when they call 911, they're getting somebody. You may be a North Collier resident, but let's say there's a lot of things happening, you may get a Greater Naples truck showing up to your house. You know, that may happen. The same way vice versa for us to them. But that's because we have automatic aid, technology, it's closest unit. The patch is gone when you are calling an emergency, because what happens is, if my truck is running, if I'm driving through Greater Naples and I'm just going through the street, the imaginary boundary line doesn't exist in the dispatch. If somebody needs help, that truck that it picked up that's there is the one that gets called. So that's really what happens. That's in today's world. Back in the day, that didn't happen. Back in the day, you had to do it all by radio. You had to tell, hey, there's a car, are you closer? You had to do all that. Today, for years now, it's been technology.
Any other questions? On behalf of the Twin Eagles membership and the team, we appreciate you being here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thanks everyone.